to get started, you would follow Rancher's documentation. It will walk you through from beginning to the end how to install Rancher on AKS. So here you can see I have the step kind of laid out right there. You would log in to Azure, create your AKS cluster, and then deploy a few Helm charts to get Rancher configure and deploy on AKS. So let's get started by connect to our Rancher demo environment. So we'll connect to our local cluster on AKS. In this case, we have a 3-node AKS cluster with Rancher install or deploy. And for the nodes that you will be using for SQL Server, obviously you want to follow Microsoft recommendation for your resource, such as the node themselves should have at least 2 gigs of memory so that it can adequately support your SQL Server availability group. So Rancher apps catalog really has many charts that you can use to automate installations and configurations of various applications. So to get the DxEnterprise /MS SQL chart, you obviously want to set up the repo. So go to repository, create, and go ahead and give it a repo name. And of course, we want to pulling it from Git. So the GitHub. And let me go ahead and make sure I have the correct Git repository. So let's go ahead and bring that up. And of course, the branch that we want to pull the data from or the Helm chart from is in the main. And that's it. So we will register the DxEnterprise repo with Rancher catalog. So with that, we should be able to see the charts available for DXE. The list here, there it is. So, and if you're pulling it up, again, there are 2 values that are considered required for deployment of the DxEnterprise MS SQL AG. Obviously, you need to supply the SA password for SQL Server and also the passkey for the DxEnterprise cluster itself. So to do that, we would need to set up a secrets that we can use. Okay, secrets, and let's go ahead and create a new one. Pig, and let's go ahead and give it a default name. So let's go ahead and call it DXE, and the data that we need to supply would be passkey. Oops. Oh, if I can type key. Okay, and give it the value. So let's go ahead and give it 1. And we also need to create one for MS SQL Server SA password. And let's go ahead and use the same demo one here. Okay, and create. So now we have a secret that holds the values required for the Helm chart to be deployed. So let's go ahead and deploy our DXE Helm chart. Again, and select install. Okay, and we want to modify the data. So go ahead and say next. Okay, so the general data, how many replicas we want to create for this AKS cluster. So in this case, we're going to supply 3 replicas and the secrets that contain the XPath key and SQL Server password. And for the DxEnterprise, in order for DxEnterprise to function, obviously you need to supply a valid DxEnterprise license key. And you can get a developer key from our portal. It is like the stated is a dev key. You can use it to fully activate and use the product fully features. Okay. And I think we are good there for DXE. So now for SQL Server, once again, you supply the additions. Except if you don't do a demo of the self-developer, and accept the EULA. Next. Yeah, and install. So Rancher will go out and pull the necessary packages from the repo and deploy our DxEnterprise MS-SQL AG cluster on this AKS environment. So look to me like it is going through and creating the load balancers to allow us to connect to the AKS cluster from the outside, right? And then it's setting up the stateful set for the environment. So look like we already have our load balancer created. So again, a load balancer for the pod 0. Basically, that's a primary replica for SQL AG. Look like it's up. It's deployed, and the load balancer IP right there. So with that, we should be able to connect to this AG quorum. So let me go ahead. Let's go ahead and disclose that and connect. There, it looks like our SQL Server is up and we can connect to it. So let's see if our availability groups also created. Look like it has been. And we have a primary node configured. Okay. And if we switch over to Rancher, we probably can see various state, what it's doing, and so on. Start app, now our DXE right there. So it looks like it's still going through and trying to complete the installation for us. All right, let's switch over to SQL Server and do a refresh here. Look like we get the second replica joining into our AG1 availability group quorum. Give it a minute or two here for the second one to join. All right, so all of our replicas are fully joined. There it goes. So just really with a few clicks through Rancher, you can deploy a fully functional SQL AG cluster with 3 replicas running on AKS. And of course, the cluster solutions that enable the automatic failover and monitoring of SQL AG is DxEnterprise. And one thing I want to point out here is that, as you have seen, we get a quorum, a cluster of SQL AG form and communicated. And we are actually set to have the replicas talking to each other, communicating with each other over a DH2i tunneling technology. So this particular technology allowed any node, whether it's a replica on site or in the cloud, to be able to find each other's and talk to each other's privately and securely. So the SQL Server AG TCP data is encapsulated and shipped over UDP across the wire, and using DTLS as the means to encrypt the data. There is no middleman between the replicas anywhere at any time. So it is a highly secure, highly discrete, and highly performant tunneling technology. All right, so now that we have a fully deployed SQL AG in AKS, so let's take a look at how we can migrate data from, say, on-prem into this AKS cluster, so that we actually make it a production environment. So to do that, we are going to install DxEnterprise solution on this Windows laptop here. And to do that, we'll go ahead and pull the setup tutorial. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll install DxEnterprise on this Windows laptop. And this laptop is running obviously locally here on-prem. Okay, so that is fully installed now. So let's connect to our environment via our DxEnterprise admin console. Yeah. So the first thing we need to do is obviously activate this laptop. So go into cluster, manage license. Okay, successfully activated. Very good. If you see the screen there. All right, and in order for us to join this laptop, a Windows laptop, into our AKS cluster, we need to allow it, right? And to do that, first thing we want to do is connect to our AKS cluster. And grab our load balancer IP address, pass key. So it's the first time connecting to the cluster. It will ask if you trust the node. Says yes. All right. Since this is a cluster where management console, you can connect to any replica, any node in the cluster, you will see the entire cluster view, right? And remember earlier, we have an AG grid across our replica. You actually see the same status here. So you can see the data for your availability group inside the admin console, or of course you can use SSMS to view and manage your AG. All right, let's go ahead and create a OTPK. It's a one-time passkey. Think of it as a password, a secret key that you can give out to any node that you want it to join into this existing cluster. So click New. And since this is a time-stamped, a time expire key, you can set that to your need. So by default, it will be an hour from now. Okay, so grab that key. And let's switch back to our Windows node. And we are going to say that we want to join this Windows node, Windows laptop, into our AKS cluster via that one-time passkey. Okay, and to do so, we'll reach out to DH2i matchmaking service. It is a cloud service. It's fully highly available, a cloud service that out there in the cloud allow you to get the node to find each other's and to connect to each other's. Remember, this matchmaking service is only there for matchmaking the peers, the nodes. It is never in the data path of the nodes. All right, as you see, so the Windows node is now fully connected and joined into the AKS cluster. So we have a cluster that span across Windows and Linux, and not just any kind of Linux, it's the Linux running inside containers, inside a Kubernetes cluster on Azure service. All right, so now that we have our Windows node joined, let's go ahead and add it into our AG quorum. Okay, and select the instance we want to join into this quorum and specified valid credentials so that we can get in. Okay. Okay. Our SQL running on the Windows machine is now fully joined into our MS SQL Server AG quorum running inside AKS. And then once again, you can see right there, we actually have a full-blown AG quorum that span across Windows and Linux and across site. And they communicate over the private tunnel that span across the environment. And if you haven't noticed, we really didn't go out and open any public port for them to talk to each other. So they all communicate over this private tunnel that they enable and configure to do. Okay. All right, so let's see if we can migrate some SQL Server data from the Windows machine onto the Linux machine. And to that, let's go ahead and make our Windows node the primary. Start hosting. So it is now the primary. So let's go ahead and connect to our, close this out. Yeah. And we'll connect to our SQL Server locally, okay? And let's create a database that we can go ahead and migrate from this Windows to the Linux machine. Okay. All right, so we have a database that we can use to replicate to other replicas. So I'll go back to here, click Manage Databases. Here's our demo 1 database that we just created. Of course, you can replicate any user database from the primary to the secondary. So I've just picked one. It'll look like it starts seeding and synchronizing. And just like that. So now that we have our database from the Windows machine replicated across the internet into AKS and onto other secondary replica inside AKS. So at this point, if we want to remove the Windows node, we can, obviously. So all we have to do is really make another node, another replica, and AKS the primary. Okay, so we have a database fully migrated from our Windows environment on-prem into AKS cluster.